Welcome back, everybody. This is with me here today. We are doing a slightly different idea here. We're still doing the builds for the strongest there is. This is a War Priest video, but it's not a build per se. I have two War Priests that I want to talk about today. We're actually going to talk about several. So those videos are coming, but I need to tweak them out a little bit, make sure that I have the feats in the right area, make sure I understand which spells would be good spell picks and things of that nature. But there is some fun stuff that we want to talk about today. One of the reasons why War Priests are so difficult to build. For making someone that's extremely strong. It's not because they can't be strong, it's because they can be. So let's actually talk about that. So we're using Call of the Wild Eldritch Arcana updated mod. Those mods were literally part of the previous videos, so we're continuing with the same. You need Call of the Wild at least, so you could get a War Priest. We're using Bag of Tricks to power level them up, so let's actually get into it, shall we? So I have, like I said, a whole team of War Priests right now, different subclasses or the generic War Priest class. The subclass we want to talk about today, as well as some spells and some gear, will be the subclass of War Priest called Sacred Fist. The Sacred Fist War Priests are ones that actually get to use their fists, like it implies, to attack. So they're basically like War Priest or watered down cleric monks builds. So it feels a lot like it makes the War Priest in general because they get spell casting from 0 to 6 levels of spells. They have a base attack bonus. They get some extra fiddly bits like the AoE healing and healing of themselves and using their buffs instantaneously on themselves at the start of every round. So you see that they'll have a lot of things that feel like Magus, which is kind of cool. So it's like the divine Magus, if you will. The Sacred Fist being a divine Magus slash monk dip. And the reason this is weird is for a couple reasons. One, for example, you can't be a monk at any level. You are considered a monk for a lot of things. You're not considered a monk for gear. So if it's something like a robe that only like a lawful neutral, lawful good, lawful evil monk can use, you have the right alignment, you are not a monk. Be real clear on this. So this is kind of a bummer because some of those robes are actually pretty damn good and kind of add to the build in a positive way. But we will prevail. The two different builds we have are hers and his, and I'm not going to go over their stats per se. I mean, I'll talk about the importance of wisdom and, of course, the importance of strength. But by and large, you'll notice that he has a undead Sacred Fist, hence his name, which means we're not using his con stat at all, and I was allowed to therefore strip his con down to 7 at level 1, so he has no con stat, and we use those extra points for things like charisma. So his charisma bonuses is giving him extra HP. Notice that her HP is the same. It's because her con stat, the +5 here, is the same as his charisma stat +5 here. So remember, all that fortitude stuff is coming from charisma for him because he's an undead creature. I forget some things though. Like for example, one of the better spells that we can use on him is Legendary Proportions. That allows him to get really, really, really big and get a +6 to his strength, which of course you could see as being appealing. The downside is that Legendary Proportions is a very similar spell to Enlarge Person, and Reduce Person obviously being the counter of those. The reason that that's important is because he's not a person. He's undead. I keep forgetting that shit. So again, we cannot use Legendary Proportions on him. We could use it on her. And again, therefore, she'd get a +6 to her strength when she changes in size and, of course, all that fun stuff. One of the fun things, though, about the Sacred Fist is while they get improved Unarmed Strike as their feat for free, all the other War Priests will get to pick a weapon focus. This is not a weapon focus. Be real clear on this. If you want weapon focus Unarmed Strike, you will have to pick it. You can do so. You can do so at level 1 if you so choose. But again, that's on you. Notice that they're not getting it for free. They're getting improved Unarmed Strike for free. This is the feat that you need to fight with your fist, or you do not provoke attacks of opportunity. That's it. That's all this is giving you. But again, since that's all they're going to do, it kind of makes sense that you'd want that thing for free. So it's kind of nice. The reason you like War Priest and Sacred Fist in particular is because of not only their ability to get extra armor, because they're not wearing any armor. As long as they're unencumbered, not wearing any armor, they get their wisdom bonus. So this +8 here we're getting for free in all 3 categories. That's really, really a lot of armor, +8 across the board. Also, even more so than that, is they'll get another +1 to their armor as well as combat maneuvers defensive for every 4 levels of War Priest that they have. So finishing off with a solid +5 by the end of the build. And again, that's all 3 categories. So again, less likely to be tripped or bull rushed or any of those other combat maneuvers that could have happened to them. More armor, so 8 and 5 combined right now is what she's actually experiencing. So again, if you go here, you'll see that the +5 comes from that, +8 comes from the wisdom. So again, really, really nice buffs. And again, will feel like a tanky character. Now you can make these characters even more tanky, like I've done with her, and do things like crane style, crane wing, crane riposte. So you see that she has those fighting styles here, here, and here. That's not the only style that she has. She actually has 2. The other one being Pummeling Style, Pummeling Bully, and Pummeling Charge. And we'll talk about those two styles as well as his two styles as a direct comparison, which is what today's video was really about, as well as a little bit about the spells that they have access to. So his styles are the new ones, or the old one, Dragon Style, Dragon Ferocity, and Dragon Roar, which is again is part of the vanilla version of the game, just like her Crane Wing, Crane Style, and Crane Riposte feats were part of the vanilla version of the game. His new one is one called Jabbing Style, Jabbing Dancer, and Jabbing Master. And that's another one that we want to talk about. The fifth and final one we haven't picked, and I won't pick it on these characters, but just to explain it to you, I can level a character up a little bit and actually show you what they would have access to. So let's just take it real quick just to show you. Doesn't matter because we're not really going to keep this character this way. I just want to get to level 3 where we get feat picks so I can show you the feats. So now the feat in question, we show one available. So let's see, we talked about Jabbing Style. The one we're missing is in the L category. So it's not here, so we need to scroll all the way down here in the L's, and it's called Unarmed Style. Yeah, just as stupid as it sounds. And I can't think of a reason that this would be of value. If anyone knows why I'm missing out on not picking Unarmed Style, please post down below. Let me know why. But just in a brief, we got 3, again, feats to pick from Unarmed Style, Unarmed Vengeance, and Unarmed Wrath. So Unarmed Style, we're taking the penalty to our armor class against melee attacks, which already sounds like a bad idea. Then, when someone does a melee attack against me, we get to add our wisdom bonus to the damage for our unarmed strike for that creature rather than our strength bonus. So obviously, if you're a wisdom-based character, you capitalize on some extra damage. If you could normally add your dex bonus to the attack's damage, so you'd have weapon finesse and, I don't even know, agile necklace, allowing your dexterity bonus to be used for damage. Again, you instead replace it with your wisdom. So again, you can do a dex wisdom build where wisdom is your most important stat, and this would allow you to do damage, but only against someone that's attacked you. So again, kind of weird. And it only lasts until the start of the creature's next turn, again, giving them the chance to attack you again. That's all well and good, but again, why not just go for dex and or strength for those builds, and again, wisdom on the side, which is what most people do. Unarmed Vengeance, on the other hand, enemy hits you with a melee attack, you gain a +2 bonus on unarmed strike attack rolls made to hit that target. So again, a better chance to hit them. Okay, but you still got to be hit in the face first. And again, you're still under your -2 penalty for your armor class. So it's still easier to hit you. You're doing more damage, presumably because your wisdom is through the fucking roof. And then you capitalize on it some more, but getting a little extra bonus to your attack roll. Unarmed Wrath, the last one, you can make a retaliatory unarmed strike against an attack opponent that hits you once per round. So this counts towards your attack of opportunity. So he punches you in the face, you punch him right back. Again, assuming that this works the way it should, the same bonuses would apply. So you get a bonus to your damage based on your wisdom. You get a bonus to your swing based on the Unarmed Vengeance, so another +2 because he hit you. So yay, I guess. I don't know. I suppose for this build, maybe the thing I'm missing here is for a character like this, the War Priest in general, someone that can heal themselves in combat, no less. This could be interesting for that reason. You get punched in the snoot and then you counter. It's kind of like the Rocky Balboa effect, where you basically take a constant beating, turn into hamburger, but then you just beat the motherfucker to death. Kind of cool, I suppose, if you think of it that way, but I don't think of it that way. I think of it as a complete waste of my goddamn time. So I don't really talk about that one, just so we're clear. If we talk about hers, let's talk first about the one that's available to everybody in this game, called the Crane Style, Crane Ring, Crane Riposte. Crane Style, Crane Wing, and Crane Riposte is more of a defensive set. What it does is, while you fight defensively, it's a little toggle that looks like a shield that you turn on. You get like a +2 or +3 bonus to your armor class. If you have enough mobility, which means 3 points invested or more, you get another +1 to armor class because of that. That's not amazing, but it's another +1, and that's decent. That's dodge armor class, so it actually works in all all categories except for this one here. There we go. So again, decent armor. Again, gets that touch armor class up even more, which again is part of the appeal. But notice for Crane Style, you suffer a penalty to your fighting defensively when you're fighting defensively. It's a -4 to your swing. With Crane Style alone, the very first feat, that penalty drops down to a -2. And while that's still bad, it's nowhere near as bad as a -4. And you're getting another +1 to your armor, another dodge bonus to your armor class, again, for having this feat, and of course, while you're fighting defensively. So you have both those toggles on, the toggle that looks like this, and the toggle that looks like the shield, and you're fighting defensively now with Crane Style. Just kind of fucking cool. Now, go from there and get yourself Crane Wing. Crane Wing will give you a +4 more dodge bonus against melee attacks. And again, you still have to have that one hand free so that you're basically smacking it aside with your little Crane Wing move. But notice something else. There's a little caveat that a lot of people miss because they think their armor is awesome and they're like, why'd you hit me that turn, but not the turn before? Well, it's because if they hit you or they miss you within 4 points of your armor class, 4 or less, but they don't hit you, you lose that +4 dodge because you used your Crane Wing to deflect it, you understand? So you don't get to smack, do it twice or 3 times in a row. You literally lose that +4, only if they come close. That's a bummer, because then you just lost some armor. Well, now, if you grab the last one, Crane Riposte, 2 things that it does. One, instead of -4 to your swing, thanks to fighting defensively, instead of -2, because you have Crane Style, now you have Crane Riposte, which takes it all the way down to a -1 to your swing. That's much better. That is totally serviceable. And with all the buffs that you get as a War Priest besides, you can really make that -1 just not exist, quite frankly. But notice this next part. It doesn't give you any extra armor. However, when you dodge them because of your Crane Wing, whether you have that 4 or less where you smack that attack aside, you won't see it. I'm just thematically in my head, that's what's happening. You basically Crane Wing, smack. And again, you get to counter it with an attack of opportunity and punch them right in the snoot. So that's what Crane Riposte is all about. And again, that -1 penalty instead of the -2 penalty. So there's plenty of reasons to want this. So that's the 3 of those in a nutshell. Basically, if you want a defensive build, feel like a goddamn tank, this is the way to go. And again, for a wisdom-based character like a Sacred Fist should be, again, they're getting all that beautiful extra armor class. You'll give them the best wisdom gear, more likely than not. Instead, I've given them subpar gear. You'll make sure to push that up to a +8 probably, instead of using that silly-ass crown. But there's only so many ways you can do that. Still, some definite fun to be had is my point. Very, very interesting. Now that's, again, vanilla version of the game. Before we go into our new one, let's talk about his vanilla version of the game one. So that's the Dragon Style, Dragon Ferocity, and Dragon Roar. Again, you don't not need to grab all 3. In fact, I could see passing on Dragon Roar. That's kind of on you. I'll explain the benefits of it still, though. But Dragon Style is a little different. It's a strength-based or an attack-based style. Not surprising. And so they gave you a defense style and an attack style, basically, in the vanilla version of the game. Dragon Style is one that gives you some bonuses to some saving throws and so on and so forth. Who gives a shit? It's there. You'll appreciate it when it works, but you're not paying attention to that. This is what you're paying attention to. Your very first attack. So the very first swing you do, whether it's a charge and you swing once and you're done, or you move like from halfway across the room to this guy and punch him in the snoot just once without charging. Again, that very first attack, and only that very first attack, every round gets more strength damage. So it's like you're wielding a 2-handed weapon. So instead of it being +11 to my damage for my strength with my little 50s, I'm getting a +11 plus half of that rounded down. So 5.5 rounded down to 5. So I would get 16 damage to that very first punch. If I punch multiple times, the rest of the attacks are normal. But this one here, the first one, will get 16 to damage instead of 11. So these ones will get 11. So it's more damage. And this sounds appealing, but a lot of people are like, well, there's better ones. Again, that's part of the reason we have the other style for him. We'll talk about those here in a moment. But I want to explain why Dragon Style is still so appealing to me. Not just that buff, not just that lame-ass damage buff, because that's only for one attack. Early levels, you'll appreciate it. Hey, don't get me wrong. But then you get something called Dragon Ferocity. Now look at this little son of a bitch. Instead of getting 50% extra damage on that first swing, now you get double your strength. So a +11 plus another 11. Sounds pretty appealing now, right? But wait, keeps going. Every attack after that in that same combat round suddenly gets a buff as well. Only 1.5, so again, now another 5, just like we had a moment ago. But again, now for all of them. So it'd be +11, +5, +5, +5, +5 extra damage. Just make sure we're clear that we're talking about the extra damage, not the inherent +11 that they're all going to get. So there'll be +11, +11. So this damage from the first swing will be 22. This one here will be 11 and 5, so 16, 16, 16, 16. That's a lot of damage. But that's pretty appealing. Notice this other part here when you score a critical hit or a successful stunning fist attempt, which is something we had to get to unlock some of these things, against an opponent while using this style. That opponent is also shaken for a number of rounds, for 1 to 4 rounds plus your strength bonus. So again, a lot of strength bonus here means they're shaken for a long fucking time. This lends itself then to some potential, which is why this build is not finished, for us to do, say, the Shattered Defenses build. So Dazzling Display, Shattered Defenses. We don't necessarily need Cornigan Smash. I'd probably still want to take it, because Power Attack is always going to be on for these characters, adding, again, more damage. But the idea of us going up there and just scaring the shit out of them because we crit, and it lands and lasts for a long period of time, that alone could be useful enough that I don't need Cornigan Smash. Now, I'm not saying that that's the best idea ever, but it's another thing that we could attempt. And I've yet to decide if officially that's interesting. But this Dragon Ferocity, this is why this style is so appealing, Dragon Style and Dragon Ferocity, those two alone, we could stop right there. He's giving me everything that I'd want. Now let's talk about the third one that you'd have to pick up after the fact. You don't have to take this one, but it's still interesting to me. Here's why. So we can use 2 of our Stunning Fist attempts. We get an additional one for just picking his feet alone, so that way you're always guaranteed to have at least 2, but you're definitely going to have more than that. When using Dragon Style as a standard action, you can expend, so Dragon Style, the toggle has to be on. We can expend 2 uses of our Stunning Fist to do basically a dragon roar, a big concussive scream, if you will, kind of like shout, where instead of doing sonic damage, we're doing bludgeoning damage. So again, that's why it says concussive. And your unarmed strike damage is what's dished out. And again, notice that our unarmed damage can be pretty fucking significant. We'll show you that here in a second. A successful will save will half the damage. Nope, will prevent the target from being shaken, so they'll still take full damage. Remember, this is not a spell. That's one of the reasons this is still appealing to me. This is not a spell, even a spell like ability. This is a feat. Because of that, any of those bastards are like, I'm immune to magic. Dragon roar. Just fuck you. Take some damage. And again, they may be immune to the shaking condition. But again, this sets up shaken for us. Again, another appealing thing that could go with Shattered Defenses. So again, where we do not need Corn against Smash. So that could be appealing to me. And again, we have other ways with spells to make things scared, as we'll see here in a bit. So again, pretty fucking cool. And those are in the vanilla version of the game. So now let's talk about the ones that are not in the vanilla version of the game, the ones that came from Call of the Wild specifically. So for her, we picked up, find it here, Pummeling Style. I'm going here so you can see the prerequisites. Okay. So if you go under abilities, find it, right click it, you'll see this window pop up and it gives you more info. No, it says X. We do have those, otherwise we wouldn't be able to pick that shit up. We get Flurry of Blows, that's a Sacred Fist at level 2 for free, and we get Improved Unarmed Strike for free at level 1. So notice at level 2 on up, you'd have access to this, assuming you have a feat pick, which probably for us means level 3 on up, you'd be able to pick this up. What does Pummeling Style do? Well, this one allows you to do multiple attacks, if you can do multiple attacks, and again, hence the reason you need Flurry of Blows or High Bab, so you get multiple attacks, so you already know that you already have them by default, okay? So you have 2 attacks minimum to be able to pick this damn feat. But she, as you can see, has all the way up to 5 right now. She can even get to 6, by the way. But the point is, you get multiple attacks on the same opponent. Pop, 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 pop. You weave and dodge and attack so furiously at the son of a bitch that you're hitting the same spots basically over and over again. And what happens is, if they have damage reduction, the way damage reduction normally works is for every blow, you absorb that much damage. So let's say they have DR 10, okay, against physical attacks, just period. DR 10. So every punch that I do does 10 less damage. Well, that doesn't sound like that big a deal, but if you do that times 5 hits, that's 50 points of damage that was fucking wasted. Okay? Now, while that's not that big of a deal, and again, you'll burn the guy down, think about those motherfuckers that have a damage reduction of like 30-something. So it just does exist in this game. So again, let's say just 30. So my minimum damage, if I roll poorly, you see she's 30 to 48, my minimum damage isn't enough to hurt them. And that means every hit, if I roll poorly each time, I will not hurt them at all. And that's a no bueno. We can't fucking stomach that shit. So what does Pummeling Style do? The very first hit gets absorbed by the damage reduction, let's say. Then the next hit, if there's any left over, it's just a subtractive. So let's say we hit them for 30 damage and they have DR 31. Let's just say. I hit them with the first hit with a 30, no damage. Because again, I didn't penetrate the damage reduction. The second hit hits in the same combat round now. And again, I do another 30. Well, it should be, again, for anyone else, I do no damage. But because I have Pummeling Style on, I will take that 31. Remember, damage reduction was 31. The first 30 took away 30. Just for the sake of argument for this discussion. It's still there. It's just for our attacks in that one combat round. It's subtracted each time. So I pop, 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 pop in the face. I keep reducing it. So now I hit him a second time with another 30, but there's still 1 damage reduction left. So instead of doing 0 damage, for like everyone else would, I'm actually doing 29. And then every subsequent attack after that in that same combat round, if I hit, will still do full damage because I've now penetrated their damage reduction. So this is the equivalent, by the way. This is the thing that I was thinking about that I said was for melee, but I couldn't find it. It's because I forgot that it was not for melee. It's a specific type of melee. This is the equivalent for those of you that play a ranger or use Akandayo and get clustering shots. That's the same exact thing, except for one's for ranged weapons. This is for your fisties only. Okay, it's the same principle. You hit them multiple times. That's why when you get in those fights and those guys are fucking hard to kill, but the only one that seems to be doing any damage is your spellcasters or Ekandayo, and you're like, why the fuck is Ekan like a rock star? It's because you probably picked up clustering shots or clustered shots, whatever it's called. In this case, it's the same principle, but for melee only, and again, only in this case with your fists. But this is amazing. So this doesn't add damage though per se. It's giving you your damage back, but only when fighting those bad guys that have any kind of damage reduction, right? And yeah, early levels, that's not that impressive because damage reduction is like, I have a damage reduction of 2. Sometimes they'll have a 6, and that's annoying, but it's not going to be like, oh, this fight is just going to drag on forever because I just can't damage him. No, you'll kick his ass. It's when they get to damage reduction of 10, 15, 20, 21, 24, 30. I think I've even seen a 31 in this game. And that shit gets fucking annoying real fast. This character will topple them. They'll just go up and seamlessly, assuming they can hit them, smack, 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 smack. And that first smack or 2 might not do enough to be really noticeable. I mean, they'll do 0 damage probably, and then a little bit of damage. And then it'll be full damage, full damage, full damage. And then the next round it'll repeat itself. Again, it resets every time you attack or every round you attack, say it that way. So this is interesting. So this is why people like Pummeling Style, because it really does add a lot of, like, this guy's too tough to hurt, not anymore. But that's what Pummeling Style is about. Now notice there's a couple other reasons I like Pummeling Style, because it unlocks things like Pummeling Bully and Pummeling Charge. Let's talk about them in order. Pummeling Bully requires, of course, all this shit here. Notice it requires Trip. Trip requires you to have combat expertise, which means we had to be a slightly intelligent person, intelligence of 13 or higher. So that's kind of an annoying feature here. But Pummeling Bully, you can't argue with the point here. To make an entire full attack, or in our case a flurry of blows, against a single target while Pummeling Style is on, if you hit with any of your attacks, you attempt a trip combat maneuver check as a free action. So as long as you have that free action available, baby, you're tripping a motherfucker, which is kind of interesting. And there's some fun to be had here. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But let's go talk now about what the third feat is, Pummeling Charge, which requires, again, Pummeling Style, but does not require Pummeling Bully. So if you don't want Pummeling Bully, if you're like, I'm not going to trip, I'm not going to get it, I'm not going to waste a feat on trip or a feat on combat expertise, and certainly don't want to waste a feat on Pummeling Bully, fine. Grab Pummeling Charge, though. It is awesome. You will get it. You will like it. Notice this. Your charge ends with a Mighty Haymaker. You can charge and make a full attack or flurry of blows at the end of your charge. For her, that means she can charge from one side of the room to the next fucking dude, assuming she has enough speed to charge them in a clear path from her to the guy that she's trying to smack in the face, and get a full attack chain off on that motherfucker. That's pretty goddamn appealing. And remember, when I just said a full attack chain, which means, again, a full flurry of blows, remember what Pummeling Bully required, that you had either a full attack chain or a flurry of blows on a target, and then you tried to trip them for free. That's why these work together. So Pummeling Charge and Pummeling Bully, you should be able to charge across the fucking room, smackety, 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 and you have the potential then to trip the motherfucker. Notice how I even picked up a greater trip, just to get a bonus to our trip, which is probably overkill. And again, I'm probably not going to get Crane Style, Crane Wing, Crane Riposte on the same build that I'm getting one of these other styles. I'm probably getting one style and running with it. You could do that, though. You could switch up. You can, go Dragon Style and fucking Crane Wing Style. You can't have both on at the same time. But again, if you're like, I need extra protection for this fight, crane it up, baby. Get that extra armor. I'm like, you know what? I'm not taking that much damage. I'm buffed to the fucking nines. I got plenty of wisdom, so I'm getting plenty of bonus to my armor class. I got the best fucking gear on. I've got all my spells buffing me as well. Time to fucking switch over to do Dragon Style and start whooping up some fucking damage. Hell, do that thing. I'm not stopping you. But the point is, I'm probably only going to pick one. But this is really appealing then for me, though. This Pummeling Charge and, of course, the Pummeling Bully, so that I can trip motherfuckers every fucking time. And whether you capitalize it or someone else in your team capitalize on it is another thing altogether. Now, what might I mean by capitalizing on it? Remember, here's an example of one that capitalizes on the fact that you're tripping a target. Remember, it's still a trip check or a combat maneuver check. Okay, so when you look at your character and you look at your marshal, you notice that you have combat maneuver and you also have bonus and defenses. So you see CMB, that's your combat maneuver bonus, and you'll see CMD, that's our defense against a combat maneuver. Okay, so if someone's trying to trip you, you have defenses. If you're trying to trip somebody else, you have a bonus to that check. So again, you can see that it would be subtractive. Well, this trip isn't that big of a bonus by default. Greater trip, on the other hand, gives us another +2, but only for trip. Okay, this stacks with other bonuses, again, like the one granted from trip. So again, we're get more and more and more. So now again, notice this part. Whenever you successfully trip an opponent, that opponent provokes attacks of opportunity. Not by you, I don't think, but by your teammates. So if you're tripping next to someone else that's meleeing that motherfucker, and you literally, are going to trip them or try to every combat round that you're doing your full flurry of blow attack on them. Trip someone on your team, bam, pop the motherfucker once. Attack of opportunity. And there's some fun that you can have as well. Something I didn't pick up, but again, I can show this to you in feat picks. So there's a feat that literally capitalizes on tripping. I want to show it to you. You have to find all the way to the bottom. Vicious Stomp. Combat reflexes is required. Improved unarmed strike, which we have. Combat reflexes, again, you'd probably want on a build anyway, because again, more attacks of opportunity, why not? Whenever an opponent falls prone adjacent to you, it doesn't say because of you or because of someone else, it just says that they fall. They trip, basically. That opponent provokes an attack of opportunity from you. This attack must be an unarmed strike. Well, we're unarmed striking all the fucking time. So if you grab something like Vicious Stomp, which I did not do, which will definitely be in the build if I go this route, you're getting a free fucking attack. And remember what we just said for this character. Let's back out of this now. Remember what I just said about this character. This character is already getting a full charge, 5 to 6 attacks off anyway because of the Pummeling Bully, Pummeling Charge, and smackety, 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 and a trip in there, and then you get a fucking attack of opportunity, foot stomp on the son of a bitches, a vicious stomp to their head. How fucking is awesome is that? It's the step on their head to make sure they're dead fucking quote that I'm thinking about every time I think of vicious stomp. Fucking sounds awesome, right? And again, you do good damage. So again, this could be a very interesting style, the pummeling style. Okay, again, came from Call of the Wild. It doesn't add damage per se. However, think about what I've just said. We're not getting a bonus to each swing. I am getting an extra attack though. If I'm doing this right, I'm tripping the target, so that's not going to do damage, but I will trip, so that's an attack in general. And it gives attack opportunity for anyone near them on your team, maybe a pet that you've summoned, which again, as War Priest, will have the ability to do so. So having all your pets surround the motherfucker while you're guaranteed to try to trip them, they fall down and all your pets around them, attack of opportunity. Fucking amazing, right? And again, Vicious Stomp for you. Again, you'll get an attack of opportunity. Combat reflexes will make sure you have multiple attacks of opportunity. If you trip one guy and then another guy moves past you, you're not losing your attack of opportunity on that son of a bitch. So again, it's not adding more damage per se, it's giving more attacks and therefore damage in that regard. Also, we're ignoring damage reduction thanks to Pummeling Style. So again, it's not adding more damage, but it's just giving you your damage back. So it's kind of hard to freaking math it out and say this is definitely better than the other two. The other two being his Dragon Style, Dragon Ferocity, and of course Dragon Roar, and of course his Jabbing Style, Jabbing Dance, and Jabbing Master. So let's talk about that one now. So Jabbing Style we picked for him at level 1. Notice we could only pick it up at level 1 because we are considered a monk at level 1. Again, even though we're not a monk proper, your levels of Sacred Fist are considered monk levels for purposes of buying feats or meeting prerequisites, right? So again, monk level 20 as far as we're concerned right now. So we've met this requirement right at level 1, and we had this for free at level 1. So now notice what Jabbing Style gives us. Whenever you hit an opponent with an unarmed strike, you hit that target with another one in that same round. So the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, 20th, whatever attack in the same combat round from your unarmed strike will get 1d6 of extra damage to it. That's it. Just a little sneak attack die, basically. Just 1d6, just added, no big deal. But what's the average of that? Well, if it's a 1, that sucks. If it's a 6, it's awesome. So add those two together. That's a 7. Divide by 2, that's your average damage. For those of you that know how to calculate that out, that's what you just did there. So a 3.5. So every attack, not counting the first one, is 3.5, 3.5, 3.5, 3.5 right now. And again, that's not impressive, especially when you compare it to Dragon Ferocity. Remember, I was getting 11 extra damage on the first hit with Dragon Ferocity, and an extra 5, 5, 5, and 5 on those. So you can see so far, Dragon Ferocity looks like the clear and obvious fucking winner. But yes, this was only one feat. Let's look at the other two, shall we? So what are the other two? Well, we had Jabbing Dancer and Jabbing Master. Okay, notice the different color scheme too, letting you know it's a new one. Notice this has a lot of requirements, and you do have to meet these requirements. We need dodge or something that gives us the equivalent of that. Combat mobility, which I think is a fucking waste. Improved unarmed strike, which again we got for free. Jabbing Style, which again we'd want, and again we're level 5 or higher. So you can pick up Jabbing Dancer again pretty early. Notice what this one does. If you hit an opponent with an unarmed strike for that round until the end of the round, you get a plus 10 to your mobility. So fucking what? I mean, am I missing something here? Who gives a shit about mobility? Mobility, for those of you that don't know, let's actually talk about skills here to explain what I mean by this. Here's mobility. Plus 10 to this means we're up to suddenly at 26. Okay, that sounds awesome, but it's only for that round until the end of that fucking turn. What does that give us? Well, you have the ability to move and not provoke attacks of opportunity as much. So again, that's the bonus to having mobility. Again, part of the name of that feat, which was the jabbing dancer. We're dancing in and out of combat, if you will. But the downside of this is there's not a really good way for you to attack a motherfucker and move away. Yes, we can move 5 feet, but after you attack. But if you've done that and you're only moving 5 feet, you don't have any attack of opportunity on you anyway. Because as long as you move only 5 feet, you will never provoke an attack of opportunity. So who gives a shit? I don't see the appeal of this. Maybe I'm missing it. Feel free to post down below if I am. But notice for Jabbing Master, it requires us to have Jabbing Style and Jabbing Dancer. So you have no choice. And you do want this one. And here's why. After unlocking all this fucking shit, your first attack still gets nothing, but your second attack, instead of getting 1d6 and all the ones after, second attack gets 2d6 of damage. But keep reading. 3 and more consecutive attacks in the same round get 4d6 each. It's not 46, 66, 8d6 or anything like that. No, it's just 46, just so be clear. So this will be nothing, no bonus to your first hit. The second hit will get 2d6 of damage, then 46, 46, 46. And again, what is the average? Well, 1d6 was again 3.5. So if we're doubling it, then all you have to do is double that number. So the average on that the second hit, is plus 7 damage on average. Make sure we're making clear that it could be lower, could be higher. Plus 7 on damage. Then this one again is another doubling. So 2d6 going to 4d6. So this is plus 7 on average. Then these subsequent attacks would be plus 14, plus 14, plus 14 on average. Now that's looking a lot better than Dragon Ferocity, isn't it? Because remember, that was giving me plus 11, plus 5, plus 5, plus 5, plus 5. Wait, I'm not done yet. While Jabbing Master sounds awesome, and it certainly is. The fact that it can go low sucks. The fact that it can go high is awesome. The fact that there's a middle ground is what it is. But remember Dragon Ferocity again. There is no range. It is a multiplicative of this, which means as long as your strength is through the fucking roof, and you remember this is not high, by the way. 32 is good, and we can get it way better than this. This number, the more it grows, the more damage you do. Period. You can rely on that damage is what I'm telling you. There is no range. There's no die roll. It's I hit, I do this much extra damage because of Dragon Ferocity. So again, plus 11, plus 5, plus 5, plus 5, plus 5. That's set in stone unless I make this number bigger or smaller. So make it bigger. And again, you may say, well, yeah, but the other guy will get that damage too because you're punching with your fists, so it's a strength-based attack. Yeah, he'll get the first part, but not the multiplicative. That's why when I tell you plus 11, plus 5, plus 5, plus 5, plus 5, that's not including the plus 11 initially. Because remember, the first one is not plus 11 damage. It's plus 22. Remember, double. That's why it says double the damage. That's why I'm giving you the smaller number, the multiplicative number, right? The extra that we're getting on top, the gravy on top, right? That's why I tell you those numbers. Because, again, that's the one that's different from Jabbing Style, Jabbing Dancer, Jabbing Mastery. Okay? So again, if you add up the 11, the 5, the 5, the 5, the 5, let's assume all 5 hits land. And you have Dragon Style, Dragon Ferocity, Dragon Roar, all that fun shit. And the strength rate that you have right now. So 11 extra 5, 5, 5, 5. That's 31 more damage. Guaranteed, assuming we hit, of course. Guaranteed with all 5 of those fucking hits. It's pretty big, right? That's a decent amount of fucking cheddar just fucking throwing a combat round. Extra 31 points of fucking damage. I'll take that. That's like another goddamn hit, damn near. Okay. Well, what about Jabbing Style, Jabbing Dancer, and Jabbing Mastery? What could we expect from it? Well, again, let's go back down here just so I have my pop-up window to remind me of the numbers. No extra damage here. I mean, yeah, we're getting our plus 11, but we were getting the plus 11 already from the other guy. So again, no extra damage for any of those on the first hit. 2d6 in the next one. So again, the average was 7. Remember, so 7 here and 14, 14, 14. So let's just, again, assume that all 5 hit. So what did we get? 14, 14, and 14. That's 3 of those times 14 is 42 plus 7. That's 49. So 49 is clearly better than 31, I think was the other number. So you can see, sounds like Jabbing Master is the winner. But wait. Remember, those are averages for 1. So it could be lower. Could be much higher. But also, the more strength I put into the build, the better Dragon Ferocity looks. So now let's talk about strength. Okay? This character right now is rocking subpar gear. Remember, I have spells that I can cast. We'll talk about that here in a moment. We have other things we can do as well. One of them being giving him an enhancement of strength, either from a belt or from a pair of gloves, that's plus fucking 8. Okay, so now that plus 8 means 4 more over on this side, so I could bring up to a 36, that'd be 2 more on that side, so that could be up to a 13. Now yet again, adding more damage. So instead of 11, 5, 5, 5, 5, I'm up to 13, 6, 6, 6, 6. You see, we're getting a lot more bang for our buck. But we're not done yet. So again, if we get that to 8, which we can totally do, this is 36. Well, what else could we buff with? Well, we have already given ourselves the potion from Bakken. We already have a 24 strength, which is the highest strength I can give you for any character by level 20 innately. Then we have the Ring of Circumstances, allowing us to get a +2 to strength again to show the sheath. It's a staple that I put on all my main character builds. That Ring of Circumstances is fucking money. 4 things you can buff. Why wouldn't you want to buff 4 things? And one of those things was wisdom. One of the things was strength. The other was dexterity for him because he don't have a con stat. And then the other one was straight just armor. So he's fucking awesome, quite frankly. So again, happy with those. But the strength bonus is what we're talking about. It's a circumstantial bonus, and therefore it stacks. Okay? Now, we don't want to do things like bull strength, because bull strength would be an enhancement. It would already be there with either this belt or the belt that we're talking about, or the gloves, the +8. That's an enhancement. They won't stack. There's no additional, right? But there is a way to get strength bonus, several ways. One is a size bonus. A large person, which we do not have, would make your strength go up 2 points, and it would be a size bonus +2. Well, he does have a spell, and it is called Righteous Might. If I can find it. Right here. Righteous Might, which is a doubling in size. It's basically the enlarged person on crack. And it basically is a +4 to strength and con. And again, con doesn't matter for him, but again, I wouldn't make him an undead anymore. I'll talk about that in a minute. But that +4 size bonus, that would add to his strength. Remember, what was his strength a moment ago? We had a strength of 36. Remember, not 32. 36 because, again, we would have had the best belt, the +8 here. Okay, so that would be 36. Now add another 4 to it. Now we're up to 40. We're not done yet, so I'm not going to give you a tally until we're finished. We're up to 40, though. Okay? Sounds good, right? There's another spell that he has, if he's not evil, which he is, which is, again, another mistake on my part. If you made a good character, which would be the ideal way of doing this. Make a good character, and that good character casts a spell from the War Priest spell list called Eagle Soul. Eagle Soul is a +4 sacred bonus to strength. That bonus to strength then stacks with the other bonuses we just talked about. So again, we were at 40, now we're at 44. And that's sadly as high as I can take you without going with a different spell, like Legendary Proportions. Now you may say, why not give him Legendary Proportions? One, he doesn't have access to it. I could give him a piece of gear, he already has it, that allows him to cast Legendary Proportions. That's this belt right here, you see that? So again, okay, so that's a +6 to your size bonus for strength, not +4 from Righteous Might. So this is better than Righteous Might. Having said that, I can't cast Legendary Proportions on him because he's undead. I forgot about that too. It's a lot like Enlarged Person. Righteous Might works, which is weird, but I guess it's because it's from the deity. But Enlarged Person and Reduced Person for the same reason, as well as Legendary Proportions, assumes you are a person. Hell, Enlarged Person says it in the fucking name. Well, you're not a person. You're undead, so it don't work on you. Same with Legendary Proportions. It will not cast at all for this character. If I gave that same belt to her who is a person, she could totally get +6 to her strength. Okay, so obviously I need to fix that. So my point is I can have his strength better than the 44 I said. I could actually have it to a 46. That's as good as it gets. Sort of. Let's talk about spells. Well, actually, before we talk about spells, let's talk about that 46 strength. What would 46 strength mean for our character? Okay, remember, we want the strongest there is. 46 is shit compared to the 50s and 60s I've been fucking touting in the past few videos. I'm assuming you guys all agree. There's reasons that this character is still going to be a solid contender, and I'll explain why here in a moment when we talk about spells. But let's talk just about that 46. With all the awesomeness buffs that we can get on ourselves, what would that mean? 46 strength, if you subtract 10, 36 now divide that by 2, that's what your bonus is on this side. So you notice if we do it right now, 32 minus 10, 22, divide by 2, 11. That's your modifier here, okay? So again, 46 is what I said I could get you. 46 minus 10 is 36. Divide that by 2, that's 18. So I can have a +18 over here. Now again, this is why we're doing this, is because we're doing a direct apples-to-apples comparison for damage potential between Dragon Style, Dragon Ferocity, Dragon Roar, and the jabbing style, jabbing dancer, and jabbing mastery, whatever the hell it's called, themes, right? So what does that +18 give us? Well, remember, for Dragon Ferocity, that means we get 18 extra damage on that very first swing. So 18 and 18. So that means that thing's going to hit like a brick fucking shit house. So 18 extra here, and then half for all the others. So instead of 18, it's going to be 9999. So now add all that shit up and compare it to your jabbing mastery, right? So what is that? 9 times 4, assuming we only have 5 hits, and all 5 hits land, of course. 9999, so 9 times 4 is 36, plus 18 more, 4654. And that's solid damage. Damage you can rely on. It doesn't change, it's not up, it's not down. Yes, damage reduction could be applicable here, but it's not the fucking point. That's damage you can rely on. Whereas jabbing mastery was averages, and it wasn't reaching the numbers that we just saw on average. Yes, there'll be times where jabbing mastery is better. There'll be times where jabbing mastery is equal, and there'll be plenty of times where it's worse. So that's why I say Dragon Style, Dragon Ferocity, and of course, if you want, Dragon Roar is solid choices. So I'm probably going to make this character not undead, for one, and I'll probably make him a Sacred Fist, just like we've done here. Same general statutes, so it's going to look a lot more like hers. And instead of the 2 fighting styles that she has, or the 2 he has, he'll probably just go all in on the Dragon Style, Dragon Ferocity, Dragon Roar. And there's some other fun shit we can do with the fact that, again, remember, Dragon Style, where'd you at, you little bastard? We have to have improved armor strike free, mobility 3, strength high. All that shit's going to be something we're going to get, no problem. Dragon Ferocity requires mobility to go up more. And Dragon Style. Notice we also need Stunning Fist. That's why this part here, like I said, I think we needed Stunning Fist. And again, sure enough, I have picked up Stunning Fist. As you can see here, I had to buy it. But I definitely want to do that. And there's some other feats that are now tied to Stunning Fist that could be of interest, something I want to look into. That's why this video is not done yet, or the build, I should say, is not done yet. So again, he's still good. And now, before we talk about spells, I know you're probably thinking the same thing that I was thinking earlier. Certainly there's better numbers than the 44, 46, or whatever you were coming up with. What about your bonuses for turning into an earth monster? Elemental body 4, earth, gives you a polymorph bonus. That polymorph bonus is like +8 to your fucking strength, man. Same if you went like Dragon Kind 3, remember that Great Axe that we had in the previous builds, where they would take that Great Axe 3, turn themselves, or the belt even for that matter, turn themselves into a dragon form level 3. That's a polymorph bonus to their strength of +10, no less. That's another 5 that we could add to the other side. So instead of 18, that could be like a 20 goddamn 3 or 22, depending on what spell we cast. That's fucking way better, brother. What the fuck you doing to me? Why you shortchanging me? Well, here's the thing about Dragon Style. You can't use Dragon Style when you're in Dragon form. I know, sounds dumb, but it's what it is. You're not unarmed striking. You're striking with claws, a bite attack, 2 wing attacks, a tail slap. You got all kinds of shit there, and it still might be worth doing. But I haven't done the math on that yet. I don't want to. I do know that you are not attacking unarmed strikes, and therefore you're not getting Dragon Style, Dragon Ferocity to kick the fuck in. So that +18 here, the +9, +9, +9, +9, that all goes away. Yeah, you would supplement it by getting a +5 to your damage if you did Dragon Kind 3, because your strength went up 10 more fucking points, up from a 46 to a goddamn 56. That's fucking cool. And you get multiple attacks. You get a bite, 2 claw attacks, 2 wing attacks, and a tail slap. So you get 6 attacks by fucking default. So it might still be worth doing the Dragon Kind 3 idea. But there's nothing stopping you from doing that anyway. Just grab the fucking belt or grab the great axe that allows you to turn into that dragon. You only get to use it once a day for each of those items. But so fucking what? Have at thee. Have fun. You'll enjoy it. Bye-bye. But the thing that I thought would work, so this is why I needed to not apologize, because I didn't tell you this shit, so screw you. But the thing that made me feel bad, I'll say it that way, was I thought that Earth Elemental form, when you did Elemental Body 4, where you're the big giant rock monster, yeah, you only get like 3 attacks. You get 2 with your main fist and 1 with your offhand fist. They always allow me to keep my bonuses of, say, if you were doing an unarmed strike build with, say, a Sword Saint, where your weapon of choice is your fisties. If you turn into the elemental body forms, none of them have fist attacks, except for the Earth Elemental. So I know that. How do I know that? Because the only way you get your armor, the extra armor from your high intelligence as a Sword Saint, is if you're wielding your weapon of choice, which means your fisties. Well, the other guys, the earth, the fire, the water, the air elemental, all do what they call a slam attack. So they literally hit you with their fists, so it looks like a fist attack, but it's not considered a fist attack. But the earth elemental does. How do I know that? Because I still have my armor. If I didn't have what's called canny defense, my armor from being a Sword Saint, in that form, then I'd be screwing myself if you don't want to change into that form, because you just lost a shit ton of fucking armor. but it always gave me my armor. So for whatever reason, the earth elemental is considered to be using fists. So I'm like, awesome, I should still be able to use my dragon ferocity on that attacks. I cannot. And that's a bummer, because that's a polymorph bonus of +8 to your strength. Not +10, like the dragon kind form, but +8. And again, it limits you to 3 attacks, 2 in your main hand, 1 in your offhand. And if you cast a haste spell on yourself, yeah, you could be back to 3 and 1, so you'd have 4 attacks. But again, it's not as appealing as 6 from your main hand here. Because again, if I cast haste on this character right now, he'd be up to 6 fucking attacks in a combat round. So again, subpar. So I don't want to talk about it too much other than point out that I did test it. It does not work. That's why the 46 was the best strength I could give you on this build. I don't think there's a way around that. There might be... Well, we'll talk about it when we talk about spells, which is where we're going to talk right fucking now. So now the other thing about War Priests, all of these guys are War Priests in general. They all have the same spell list, 1 through 6. Or of course, 0 through 6, excuse me. But I wanted to talk about the spells that buff us in a variety of ways. So the buffs that I give a shit about. Remember, we're talking about the strongest there is. So of course, we want stuff that's going to buff your strength, obvious. There's not many of those. But there's other ones that simulate it. What do I mean by that? Like, it'll be a bonus to your swing and a bonus to your damage. What do you think fucking extra strength gives you? It's not going to be a plus to my strength stat proper. I'm not going to get a strength of like 60, 70, or 80 or anything fucking weird like that. But for something like Divine Favor, where it's a +1 to my swing and to my damage rolls for 1 fucking minute, all the way up to a +3, best case scenario, +4, I'll show you a way to cheat that here in a second, because I have it on both these characters. That's a solid upgrade. So think what I'm just telling you. Plus, let's just go with the number here, the +3 to my attack and a +3 to my weapon damage. Notice how they say weapon damage. That includes your fist. The reason they have to say weapon damage is that this does not buff your ray spells. So if I were to like shoot you with like a scorching ray or something else, that's like a ray spell that does physical damage, like acid splash or something like that, this wouldn't add to that damage. Okay, just so we're clear. But again, bonus on attack and weapon damage rolls. The attack is period. Attack. This your AB is up. That doesn't matter what kind of attack it. So like if I buff with this and hit you with Ray of Sickening, remember that is a ray spell that could miss. I'm getting a +3 bonus to that fucking swing because I have this spell on me. So my attack bonus went up 3. And again, my weapon damage rolls go up by +3. That's like saying +6 to my strength. Yes, only for 1 minute, but so fucking what? And remember, I told you there's a way to make this +3 go up to a +4. That's like +8 to my fucking strength for, again, a minute. It's only a level 1 spell. Now, how do we get it to +4? Let's talk about that first. Notice how it is a luck bonus. You're going to find a lot of luck bonuses on your cleric spell list, which again is where the War Priest gets their spells from. So, there is a trait in this game. Thank you, Eldritch Arcana Updated mod. That one is under the Faith category, and I want to call it... No, actually, I'm not going to call it anything because I'm going to fuck it up if I tell you. So let's actually look for it and actually find it, and I'll tell you what it is. It is... Faith trait, Fate's Favor. There you go. When you're under the effect of a luck bonus of any kind, but that can't come from gear, be real clear on this. But it has to be like a spell. You get a luck bonus, it goes up by 1 more. So that +1, +2, +3 is actually +2, +3, +4 for us. Thanks to that, and I grabbed that at level fucking 1. That is something you're going to want. And there's more than just one spell that gives you a luck bonus, actually. There's at least 3 or 4. So pretty fucking cool. But again, Divine Favors on my list. Also on my list for level 1 is the Bless spell. Bonus for you and your team, +1 to your swing. Morale bonus now. No damage bonus, but again, still giving me a better chance to hit. So again, I still include it on my list. Other stuff that I found on this list, that again, there's other things that can not... For example, like I could have added Bane to my list. Because it's not a buff for me, it's a penalty to the bad guys. A, it has to work for 1, and B, it's a penalty to their attack bonus, which is the same as saying a bonus to my armor class. So I could include it, but I'm not going to. I'm only looking at direct buffage to myself. And I'll even have a spell that will buff me and penalize the bad guy all at the same fucking time. I'll talk about those. But I'm talking about just self-buffs type things, okay? Or teammate buffs, for that matter. For example, protection from alignment, it's a +2 armor class bump. That's definitely worth. Now, the downside of this is it's not that good of a buff because you have to know the alignment of the target that's attacking you. Your choices are, you get when you cast a spell, you need to protect from either a lawful attack, a chaotic attack, a good attack or an evil attack, your choice. Now, yes, you can cast a spell 4 times, I suppose, and cover all 4 of those categories. But now the moment you fight a wild animal that has a true neutral alignment, you're fucking boned because you ain't got that +2 armor no more. Because again, they don't fall under any of those 4 categories. So this is not the best spell. The one that's better than it is the one way the fuck over here called Shield of Faith. This is a +2 all the way up to a +5 deflection bonus to armor. For those of you that don't know, deflection bonus to armor usually comes from your ring of protection. So obviously this won't stack. But that means I don't need a ring of protection no more. Yay me! And it's a +2 that steadily gets from +2 all the way up to a +5 by my highest level, which is level 18. And then 19 and 20 is just, nothing special. But still, it lasts longer. Solid armor bump. So you probably want to slot this at least once, if not twice, for your fights through the day. Pretty damn cool. So again, better in my opinion, this one. Also on this list is, I suppose honorable mention should go to Stunning Barrier. It's not great. It's a deflection bonus, but +1. Some saving bonuses as well, +1. Doesn't last long. It discharges the moment someone punches you in the fucking face. So this is a terrible spell. And the only reason that this is honorable mention, and while I do say it gives you an armor bonus, and it does, it dispels the moment someone punches you in the face. However, when someone punches you in the face with a melee attack, the bastard gets stunned for 1 round. And you may say, sure, but it doesn't last very long. And this is kind of one of those spells where, again, I always have said the same thing. Let me right-click it to lock it in place and explain what I mean. Notice how it's personal effects only on you that it works. It doesn't last very long. And I always told myself, well, if I could cast this at like a moment's notice, like a swift action, or a free action even for that matter, where, shit, the fight just started, I have no protections on, I don't even have Shield of Faith on, let's say, Stunning Barrier, because I know this guy's going to come over me and start clubbing me in the face. Let's get that fucking Stunning Barrier up. If I can do that as a swift action and still get my fucking attack chain off, or cast a spell that's like an offensive spell for that matter, or even a buff spell for that matter, I would totally pick this spell. Well, guess what? You can as a War Priest. They have the ability, it's called Fervor. The ability to cast self-buffs on themselves, so long as it's a range of touch and only affects 1 person, and of course an ally, so that's you or your teammates. So basically you're casting it on yourself, you're choosing to. You can activate it as a swift action. So I can, in a moment's notice, like 17 fucking times a day or some shit, just go, boop, I'm protected, and cast that spell, or Shield of Faith, or whatever other spell that it might be a buff for myself. Which is why that's kind of interesting now. That's the only reason this one's an honorable mention. And the only reason I mention it as an honorable mention is because there's a better version of it coming later, which they will have access to. And again, they can, in a moment's notice, cast it on themselves. And that one's way better. Still crappy armor. It goes from +1 to +2. But instead of dispelling the moment someone attacks you, Greater Stunning Barrier, which is a higher level spell, will discharge a number of times equal to your caster level. So you'll have that buff for 20 hits to the face. And 20 times where the bastard is being checked to see if they get stunned and there's no spell resistance to that effect, so unless they're immune to stuns, they're probably going to fail one of them. You got a pretty good chance of stunning somebody, and that's of value. So again, that's why I like the other one. But that's still a solid choice. Of course, the other ones that we talked about, like Magic Weapon, only need to mention this for the fact that for other War Priest builds, this is a solid upgrade. +1 to your attack, +1 to your damage. Again, makes it a magic weapon like it implies. And it stacks with the weapon's magic already, up to a total of +5. So this +1's not that impressive, but stack it with something else. The downside is, read right here, natural weapons such as Unarmed Strike, which is what he's all about, and so is she, this does not buff that. Magic Fang and Greater Magic Fang do, and we don't have access to those spells. So hopefully someone on your party has those spells, like a Druid, for example. Let them fucking buff you with Magic Fang or Greater Magic Fang and watch your attacks just fucking go through the roof. Better attack bonus, better damage, just like you would expect. Solid upgrade. Of course, Obscuring Mist is another honorable mention because it does give us concealment, but again, it gives them concealment too. So again, Blind Fight, Improved Blind Fight, Greater Blind Fight could be of appeal for this type of build. You better believe I'm going to fucking capitalize on that shit because I still like that. So again, there's some cool stuff to be had here for all the spells. We're not going over all of them, but we're going to go through every level for all the ones that I consider buffs proper. Level 2, Aid is the first one on my list over here. Notice it's another morale bonus. Again, therefore will not stack with Bless. However, it has 2 effects. 3 effects, I should say. Morale bonus for attack bonus. Bonus to your saves against fear, which is again the exact same thing that Bless did, right? Saving throws against fear and morale bonus on attack rolls. And the only thing that Bless does different is it lasts. It's AoE. It lasts, I think, longer. No, actually, I think they all both last 1 minute per caster level. But Bless does dispel Bane. So if someone casts this on you and your team, you can get rid of it by casting that. Aid doesn't do that. Aid, on the other hand, is single target. and it can be cast on you or a teammate. And again, at a moment's notice, I can activate that. My phone agrees. But it also gives you temp HP. And that's the other reason you like this one, because especially early levels, that 1d8 plus maximum of plus 10 on top of that, that's some extra fucking punch into your face that you can take. So again, if you're not quite buffed up to the 9s, 8 is a solid buff. Okay, it's not amazing, but it's definitely decent and worth mentioning. Other stuff that's on my list for level 2, obvious bull strength. And again, I know you're going to have gear that's better than this, but until you do, you get a build of +2. That's nice, but +4 is still better. Cast this shit on yourself. It will last a long time. And again, at a moment's notice, you can do so because of your touch range. Single person buff. This can be like, oh shit, the fight started. Where's my +4 to strength? Boop, and I'm ready to rock and roll. So again, useful early, not so much later, but definitely worth mentioning. Other stuff though that's in here, kind of honorable mention again for Savage Maw. It doesn't give you extra damage per se, it gives you an extra attack, and that's okay. And again, something we could get out of this, not only do we get that extra bite, remember we can stop, scream, and intimidate people in a big fucking circle, setting them up for shaken, so that we can do our shattered defenses. Again, not as impressive when you consider the fact that we could have done just as easily the same goddamn thing. Sorry, give me a second. You can do the same thing with Dazzling Display. There it is. And you have to have Dazzling Display, I believe, to get shattered defenses. So again, not particularly interesting. But of merit is the fact that you get the extra bite attack, you get your strength modifier on that bite attack, you can crit and therefore bleed the target, so there's a lot of fun to be had here. So again, getting his attacks from 5 to 6, and that Maw looks like it really is a Savage Maw already. Another one though that's a solid contender here is Bone Fist. This is another new spell from, I want to say this is from Call of the Wild. This is an AoE buff for you and your team, +1 natural armor, so it's an armor buff, that's the reason it's on the list. But also notice the next part, +2 damage to your natural weapons. That includes your little fisties, hence Bone Fist. So again, +2 damage. It's not a bonus to your swing, but it's a bonus to your damage. And again, something you would want on this type of a character. So again, another one that makes sense to have on your build. And there's other stuff in here, but it's not anything that's going to add to your armor class or your damage, etc. and so forth. For example, where he's undead, +1 profane bonus on attack rolls, damage rolls, and saving throws. That might work on him. I haven't tested that out. I don't care to, because it's not something you're going to slap down. It's a ground-based effect, which means you cast it on the ground. So that's why I say centered on target point within close range. So you're buffing an area for undead, or you're buffing an area for to protect from undead if you're using the consecrate, the opposite version. This would be more interesting on this build if A, I kept him undead, which I'm not going to, and B, I made him like a Necrolord, where he's going to use the animate dead, the lesser animate dead, because again, when you do that in a desecrated area, you get a better buff to those undead that you're summoning, or that you're animating, I should say. So that could be of interest, but again, since I've decided I'm not going with the undead build, this is a bad idea. Level 3, spells that I thought were of interest, Magical Vestment, right here. Notice on this one, these guys don't get to wear armor, because of the fact that they're basically Sacred Fists. Because of that, though, you can wear robes. Robes are considered armor because it goes in the armor slot. So Magical Vestment will buff armor. It will buff robes. If you don't have braces of armor class +5, +6, +7, or +8, this is a solid choice. Because again, it can get all the way up to +5. That's as high as it'll go. Once you get a braces of armor class +5 or greater on this character, this spell is useless for you. Doesn't mean you can't cast it on a teammate, but for you, it's shit because they don't stack anymore. So +5 is as high as you're going to get, or whatever you have that's better than +5 from those bracers. However, having said that, if I don't want to use those bracers, there's other bracers in the game that are of interest. I'll show you when I do his build proper. Then there's at least 2 that stick out to me that could be pretty fucking interesting for his build. And it would still give him armor, and it would still give him the use of a spell or 2 or 3 that he's never fucking uses before, or that he would use but he just doesn't want a fucking slot. So again, some pretty interesting things here. And that still then gives us +5 armor. Is that +8? No, but it's still moving in the right direction. Know that there are some robes out there that have armor built into them, where it's like says +4 armor. This spell will not make it better, except up to the +5, which means it won't stack, is what I'm telling you. So it's not going to be 4 and 5. It'll be 4 going to 5. And that's the best case scenario. So yeah, I suppose you could take those robes so that when you don't cast Magical Vestment on yourself, you're at least got a +40 armor class. I still think that's a bad idea. You can do what you want. But my point is, get the other robes. Get some other robes that don't give you armor, that give you something else that you think is fucking cool. Like I got him Leviathan robes or some shit. And use magical vestment then on those robes to give you a solid +5 armor class bump. You'll appreciate it. Other stuff that's on our list over here is the one right next to it called Prayer. Prayer is a nice buff and debuff all at once. Notice it is another one of those that's a luck bonus and therefore will not stack. However, just like Divine Favor gives a +1 to attack bonus and damage with your weapon, and just like, actually I think this is the only other luck bonus one we saw so far. Yeah, this is the only other luck bonus one we saw so far. So this is our second luck spell. The reason that this is important is because, again, it does more than just attack bonus and damage bonus. That's why this is of value, even though you could cast, like I said, Divine Favor on yourself and be better off. Because remember, it's a +3 best case scenario. This one's only a +1. So, yeah, attack rolls and damage rolls. But again, for the team, and bonus now to saves and skill checks. And notice the foes within range take the exact opposite penalty. So unluck bonus, or penalty, I suppose. But again, pretty cool in that regard. And notice there's no saving throw associated with that. There's spell resistance, but that's it. So they don't get to save against this fucking effect. They're just at a penalty and you're at a buff. And so is your team. So you can see the appeal of Prayer. Again, a solid spell. With that luck bonus, remember that same trait, that Fate's Favor that we had, that trait I talked about? Remember, this is a luck bonus for all those things. So instead of saying +1, technically we're at a +2, baby. That's the saves. That's the skill checks. That's a solid reason now to want that spell. And again, while it doesn't stack with the attacks and weapon damage bonus of Divine Favor, because remember that one can be +4, this +2, we won't stack with it. But we will get the save bonus and the skill bonus, so there's reasons to cast both spells at the same time, or the same fight, if you will. So again, never forget that it has more than just those two effects. But that's a solid choice. And then the other one that's in this list, well, two, well, I guess there's technically three, because I see Greater Stunning Barrier. We already talked about this, but just to show it to you, the +2, and again, the fact that it discharges a number of times equal to your caster level. So again, just as a nice reminder there, so when you're level 20, you can cast a spell on yourself at like a moment's goddamn notice. So instead of a standard action, it's a swift action. Boom. You go into melee, and everyone's punching you in the fucking faces because this armor is shit. But every time they fucking hit you, no spell resistance, a will save, or they're basically stunned. It's only for one round, but hey, I'll fucking take a 1 round stun at some bitch because I can capitalize on that shit. And again, we got 20 uses then of that per casting of the spell, until it discharges completely or the duration wears off. So that's pretty fucking interesting. But that's just another one that's honorable mention as far as I'm concerned. The other two in this list, though, that were useful was Deadly Juggernauts. And look at this little fucker. Another luck bonus to attack roll, melee attack rolls, specifically telling you melee attack rolls now. Melee weapon damage, strength checks, not strength. Be real clear on this. Strength checks, strength-based skill checks, that's athletics, and some damage reduction besides. Lasts for a decent amount of time. Notice it doesn't do shit when you cast it on yourself. It only kicks in, stacking on itself, when you kill something. When you, the person that the buff is on, kills something. When you finish off a target, you get a +1 bonus to all those things and a DR2/dash. It can stack on itself up to 5 times total, so you can have Deadly Juggernaut +5. When that's the case, you get a +5 bonus to your attack, +5 bonus to your damage, +5 bonus to your strength checks and strength-based skill checks, which is another way of saying +5 to athletics. What's strength checks? Strength checks is, for example, if I need to bend this bar, it's not an athletics check, it's a strength check, which means my strength modifier, that's all I get. And then you roll a 1d20. Well, this would be a strength check, so therefore I can get another +5 to that fucker if I have the best possible buff on me. Technically, I believe that since it is a luck bonus, this could actually go all the way up to a +6. It'll have no bearing on the DR10, but I should get a +6 to all this shit. That's pretty good. It's not the best we have coming, but it's a pretty fucking good one. And again, lasts for a long time. That's the big selling point here. So Deadly Juggernaut is fucking amazing for you. And again, just to throw that back at you, +6 to all the shit we just talked about. That's again like saying +12 to fucking strength. And in this case, it almost really is, because it's a +6 to your swing, a +6 to your damage, a +6 to your strength checks, and a +6 to your strength-based skill checks. That is the definition of a +12 to strength. The only reason that it isn't technically is if I were to switch from Deadly Juggernaut, have this on myself, and switch to a two-handed weapon, or a one-handed weapon that I can wield with 2 hands, which you cannot do with your fists. Now I'd be doing extra damage. This one would not be giving me that extra damage. So it's not the same as a strength increase, just so we're clear. But it's so fucking close that it might as well be. And that's why I fucking include this on my, this is a strong build. Having said that, Deadly Juggernaut's not the only one that's on this list. So now we have that, we got a greater stunning barrier. We also have Channel Vigor, and this one is less important than you think. Still important simply because of this little bastard right here, the haste spell. Only on yourself, and it doesn't last long. But remember, Flurry of Blows and haste stack. So remember, this character had 5 attacks in a combat round. Now he can have fucking 6. And everything that haste gives you besides. So not only do you give you an extra attack at full attack bonus, it's giving you, I think, you like a +1 to your swing, a +1 to your dodge, extra ground speed. And remember, if I'm not using the Dragon Ferocity, for, like, again, I would be for him, you say I was using her build, and instead of grabbing the Crane Style, Crane Wing, Crane Riposte, if I was doing the Pummeling Style, Pummeling Bully, and Pummeling Charge, remember that ground speed? I said if I could fucking make it from one point of the screen to the other, which means a high ground speed, and charge from point A to point B, she with Pummeling Style on, thanks to Pummeling Charge, she would be able to do full Flurry of Blow attack on that motherfucker. Literally, she could start here and get that motherfucker way the hell over there. If there's a straight line shot between the two of them, she charges and just punchy, and just having all kinds of fucking fun. You see what I'm saying? So again, this is a solid upgrade. And again, more armor, again, because of the +1 to dodge. So again, a solid buff spell. We're not done yet. Level 4 spells. There's not many for level 4, 5, and 6, but the ones that are there are pretty solid. Level 4, we have my favorite spell called Divine Power. This one, for any of the clerics out there know what I'm talking about, but for those of you that don't know, this one is literally another luck bonus, just like we saw with Deadly Juggernaut. Notice we're getting a luck bonus to attack rolls, weapon damage rolls, and again, notice how it says attack rolls, not weapon or melee weapon attack rolls, so any attack rolls. But weapon damage rolls, bonus, strength checks, strength-based skill checks, so just like we saw with Deadly Juggernaut, and we get temp HP, something we didn't get with Deadly Juggernaut, and we get a full attack just like we have haste on ourselves, so it don't stack with haste. But this is another way of getting 6 attacks in a fucking combat round. But a +6 best case scenario, +7 with our Fate's Favor trait. So you can see the appeal of this one. It just does not last very long. That's why I slot it like twice. This one again, +7 to your attacks, +7 to your damage. That's like 14 fucking strength, bro. That's a solid hit motherfucker. And again, a free attack, no less. So it's not even just a +7 to your fucking damage. It's a +7 to all your attacks. And then another fucking attack on top of it. This is a solid way to just be Dragon Ferocity beating the shit out of something. And just enjoying that uber fucking damage that you're going to put out. Because you will put up numbers on the board with this build. Having said that, Divine Power's not the only one on this list. The only other one here, though, that made any sense to me, and again, will not work for him because of his Sacred Fist punchy, is the Greater Magic Weapon. Is the only other thing in here that's worth mentioning, in my opinion. Again, now the weapon can go from +1 all the way up to a maximum of +5. And again, if the weapon's already magic, and as long as it's not +5, we can bring it up to +5. No better. So just because you have a +5 here and a +1 weapon doesn't mean you get a +6. It's just going to bring that weapon up to a +5. And that's best case scenario. Why do I say best case? Because remember, you only get a +1 for every 4 caster levels. So if you have a +1 weapon and you're a level 4 spell, we'll see, what would that be? Level 1, 4, 7, level 10. Level 10 is as soon as you could pick this one up. Level 10 would be only a +2, not a +5. See that? So again, +1 weapon and a +2 spell gets you up to +3. The point is you can't exceed the +5 ever. But still, only works on things that are not natural weapons, so actual weapons proper. So again, you should use the spell, just you can't use it on yourself. You give it to someone else if you're staying with your little fisty fists. So again, some fun to be had here. But again, you're not going to use it on this particular build. That's all that I really care about. There's more stuff in here, like Aura of Doom is amazing, Death Ward's amazing, etc. and so forth, freedom of movement, etc. and so forth. But the point is, as far as actual protection, actual armor, actual attack bonus, actual damage bonuses, and actual strength bonuses, that's all there is really here at level 4. Level 5 is even worse. Well, not worse, it's actually better. We have Angelic Aspect. It's lame in that it's a DR for acid and cold is helpful. The DR against physical attacks is nice, but only against evil targets. Notice that you need a +2 deflection bonus, resistance bonuses against evil targets. So again, kind of like a protection from alignment, but only against evil. And then etc. and so forth, blah, blah, blah. But it's a nice long-lasting buff, and it's a +2 deflection bonus, maybe. It's really the DR against acid and cold that you give a fuck about, because it doesn't matter if they're evil or not. The DR5 matters, but not for acid and cold. So it does help in that regard, and again, you'll take it. But it's really not that impressive other than that. Burst of Glory, on the other hand, a spell I constantly forget about. This one's decent. It's another bonus in that it's a sacred bonus. Now notice that we're going to have two different sacred bonuses we're going to get for spells, and they do stack, and here's why. This one is a sacred bonus to attack rolls. It saves against fear, not a morale bonus like Bless. So this will stack with Bless. This will stack with Aid. The temp HP should stack with Aid as well. I haven't tested that, but it should. And it's an AoE buff, no less. This is a nice way of buffing you and your team for like a short amount of time. Just buck it. Give everyone a +1 to their swing. And it's a sacred bonus. Because it's sacred, it should stack with all their other bonuses because there's very few sacred bonuses in the game. Now, that's why this one's nice. The other one that's on this list is the other Get Big spell. Right here, Righteous Might. And again, it's not as good as Legendary Proportions. He can't cast Legendary Proportions right now because he's undead. I'm going to fix that mistake when I make his build proper. But until that time, Righteous Might will work on him. And that's a +4 to Strength and Con and a penalty to Dex besides, because you're big and you're doopy and you basically stumble over your feet. You get some natural armor as well, but notice it's natural armor enhancement. So again, +2 is nice. You'll probably exceed that. And we definitely do with gear. But notice that we get DR protection, and that gets better over time. That's not bad. Our weapon size category gets better, which we're about to talk about in a minute here, because it's another fun thing about War Priests in general that's fucking awesome. That'll probably be the last thing to talk about for this video. But this size bonus, again, because you're bigger, your weapon category gets bigger, right? So if you're using a short sword, for example, that like does 1d6 of damage, now it does like 1d8 of damage or some shit, because you're in a bigger size category. You went from normal size human to large, so to speak. And this one, again, works on undead because it has nothing to do with you being a person. That's why Legendary Proportions and Enlarged Person and Reduced Person don't work on the undead. But it works perfectly on us. So again, a nice buff, and again, you will use it. It's not as good as Legendary Proportions, which I will get in his build thanks to gear. And once I make him not undead. But again, I only get to use that, I think, like once a day anyway. So again, I can slot this up multiple times, as you can see. So again, plenty of reasons to want Righteous Might on your build, because +4 is not the same as +6 to Strength. But when that +6 runs out and you have no other way of reactivating it, +4 will do in a pinch. Just saying. And the size category bigger means you got better reach, etc. and so forth, and blah, blah, blah. So again, you'll appreciate Righteous Might. Last one is a level 6 spell, and this is the one that really tops you off, because this is the other sacred bonus. Now, this will stack with the other one, and here's why. The sacred bonus in this case is not to your attack bonus, it's to Strength. This is the only sacred bonus to Strength I think I know of in the game. +4 sacred bonus to Strength. So that's the reason we can add that to our thing. Now, the downside of this is you have to be good to be able to use this effectively. If you're neutral, you get Sickened, which is a penalty to your swing and all kinds of other shit. It's almost like taking away the Strength bonus. You still got your damage, but it's Sickened really fucks you over. If you're evil, like he is, it's even worse. Not only are you Sickened, you jump all the way from that to Stagger, which means you're completely boned. You only get like one attack in a combat round for like the duration of the fucking spell. So it's really fucking you over. But notice some other stuff here. Sacred bonus to Armor class, another bonus to Armor. Appreciate that. Sacred bonus to Strength. We'll appreciate that. Resistance, Acid, and Fire. Awesome. And a sacred bonus to Persuasion, so long as we're using it to Intimidate. So if you did a Cornigan Smash build, which many of these War Priests will probably want to do, this is another bonus to your Intimidation check. And again, it's sacred bonus, so therefore it's probably going to stack with all kinds of other shit. Notice this next part here. The bonus to Initiative, sure. Fast healing too. We regenerate in combat. That's fucking awesome. This would be, again, when I mentioned the Unarmed, the Fighting Style, the one that I hate. The only one that when you have to get hit to be able to do extra damage and have a bonus to your swing. This would be the only reason that one would make any sense to me, is if you had something like Eagle Soul on yourself, because you're always regenerating it. So yeah, I may be getting punched in the face, but I'm regenerating from it now. I'll punch you back even harder. I guess. I don't think that's good enough reason to do it, but it's at least lends some credence that the Unarmed Fighting Style could be of value. Here, on the other hand, any critical threat roll made against an evil creature with a weapon you wield, including our fisties, is automatically confirmed. So while this isn't going to land on everybody, on evil creatures, especially for our fighting style that we're using, because those of you that don't know, when you fight with your unarmed strikes, you only crit on a natural 20. Yes, I could grab the improved critical feat for unarmed strikes, bringing it up to 19 and 20, but that's still kind of lame sauce. You could do so. I mean, we have the ability to do so, I think, on this build, but it's still one of those where I don't think I care enough. But having that automatically confirmed now when you randomly do get that natural 20, that's fucking sweet. But again, it has to be against an evil creature. And that's a solid upgrade, and that's definitely a spell you're going to grab. Not counting, of course, all the other cool spells, like the ability to like hurt something at a moment's notice for up to 150 fucking damage, or heal yourself in combat just because fuck that game. I need to be healed for 150. And again, with our ability to cast this spell on ourselves, because it's a single target touch attack, or touch heal, excuse me, I believe with our fervor ability, we can activate heal at the start of a combat round, and it's a swift action where you're just like, fuck it, heal me, 150 health, I'm back in form, and I can still fight in the same combat round. That's pretty fucking powerful, and that's fun. That's why I did it for him as an undead, because he could cast harm, as you can see, on himself, because remember, undead get healed by the harm spell. So I could literally fight as an undead motherfucker, either use this offensively to attack you, or defensively, like healing myself the fuck back up. And it does work. So I'll just have to switch out from harm and go back to heal. So instead of having harm twice, I'll have like heal twice probably. But again, solid ways to think of this character when you're talking about damage. Now the last thing to talk about for damage, for War Priests in general, let's actually go to one of these generic ones first. Notice when we talk about their weapons, all these guys get what's called a, what's that for her apparently? Let me find what it has. A blessed weapon. Sacred weapon. There it is. Sacred weapons, for those of you that don't know, in this game for War Priests that have access to this, means whatever damage the weapon does, it doesn't do that damage anymore. Unless it's better than or equal to the damage that I'm about to tell you. At the lowest levels, in this case level 1 to 4, any weapon that they have does, or any sacred weapon that they have, so you choose your favored weapon, that's your sacred weapon right here. Like in her case, it's longsword. It will do 1d6 of damage. Well, longsword already does 1d8, so it will not drop it down. We will not be penalized by this, is what I'm telling you. But notice that means that at 1 to 4, it'll still be 1d8 of damage for her. It'll be 1d8 of damage from level 5 to 9. But past level 9 War Priest, suddenly that longsword will do 1d10. Then it'll do 2d6. And then it'll do 2d8. Okay, that's best case scenario. Now again, if you had like Righteous Might, Enlarged Person, or Frightening Presence, or anything else that gives you a size bonus, right? You get bigger, you're stronger, and all that fucking shit, and your weapon category goes up. That 2d8 probably jumps up to like a 2d10. Pretty fucking cool, right? And while that doesn't sound like that big of a deal compared to the 1d8 of the longsword anyway, remember 1 minimum, 8 maximum, add those together, that's 9, divided by 2, 4.5 is your average damage for your longsword. Well, what is it here? Well, it's double. So 4.5 just went up to 9 is your average damage. And again, that's significant, but I can see you're like, oh, it's not that big of a fucking deal. Well, okay, fine. For a longsword, maybe not. Remember, this works on any weapon that you picked as your sacred weapon, which is the one weapon you're seeing here. You can pick anything. For example, I've picked, for her, a fucking dagger. That dagger should only be doing 1d4 damage. See how it's doing 1d6? Because she's level 1. And why is she getting 1d6? Because at level 1 through for level 4, whatever weapon she has, minimum damage is 1d6. So now that dagger jumped up to 1d6 of fucking damage. By the end of her build, that 1d4 dagger is guaranteed to do 2d8 of fucking damage. So remember, 1 to 4, what's the damage range on that motherfucker? 1 is minimum, 4 is the maximum. Add those together, that's 5 divided by 2. 2.5 is your average damage with a fucking dagger. Not counting the pluses of the dagger, of course. So 2.5 is your average dagger damage. But now we're jumping up to, what did I say a moment ago? What was it, 18? No, 2 and 16, yeah, 18. So 9 damage. So you're jumping up from 2.5 to 9 average damage with that dagger. This makes this character going to be super appealing as a cult leader, and you'll notice I'm getting a sneak attack as well, so you better believe that on a strength-based build, I'm going to find a way to do 2-weapon fighting with this bitch, with double daggers, doing shit ton of fucking damage and sneak attack besides. It's going to be fun. That build's coming later, though. But that's another reason, like I said, this is why you like War Priest. Now, you don't get a sacred weapon, for those of you that don't know, as a sacred fist, because your fists are your sacred weapon by default. It doesn't say it, but it treats it just like a monk does. So if you see it here, yeah, unarmed strike. The same for him, the same for her. An unarmed strike, the improved unarmed strike that they get the damage increase like a monk would. So this is just like a monk gets this upgrade. So when monks, if you go level 1 to level 20 monk, this will be what you'd see for a normal size, medium sized monk, human-ish size monk. If you're small, notice that the category gets smaller. If you're large, with a spell, obviously, you get better. So again, we can tell you what we're going to do for damage here in a moment. But notice by the end of her build, which she's done, she's getting 2d10 of damage with her fist. And she's getting 5 to 6 fist attacks in a fucking round, man. And that's before we add that modifier of that huge strength and the power attack and all the buffs and bonuses that we could fucking tack on there to really push her damage through the fucking roof. She's going to get a solid plus 30, plus 40, plus 50 maybe even category on this end. And then do 2d10 of damage per smack anyway. What's 2d10? 2 is the minimum, 20 is the maximum. Add those together, that's 22. She's doing the average of 11 damage on a fucking punch. plus all that modifier back here. So again, 11 plus 28, let's just say that's all she has. That's 39 fucking damage on average she's going to punch you with, and she can do that 5 times in a combat round, 6 if I cast a spell on her. And she is not my strongest character. I mean, strong, not by this, but I mean damage-wise. He's already surpassing her. Look at that fucking 36, and again, Dragon Ferocity, baby. Solid damage. And again, he's still getting that 2d10 as well. So he's getting that average of fucking 11 damage per smack, plus the 36. So he's doing like 47-ish damage on average per fucking punch in the face. Now again, that's on average, and that's before we cast all the other buffs on him. He has some on him right now, but not all of them. And again, she does as well. So when we really kit him out, get the divine favor, divine power, the blah 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 bluffs on him, and have him really punch through the roof, he's going to be hitting solidly in the 40s and 50s, just like her, if not better. It's fucking awesome. Having said that, remember, Righteous Might in any enlarged spell, like Enlarged Person, Righteous Might, Legendary Proportions, makes you a larger size category. So we're already medium, because we're human size. And as such, going from human size, medium, to large size increases our physical fist attack. So at level 20, instead of seeing 2d10, you're going to see 4d8 per your punches. Now what's that going to mean? Well, again, what's the average? 4 is the minimum. What's 4 times 8? Was that 32? So 32 and 4 make 36. Now divide that by 2. Was that 18? I think I did the math right. 18 average damage per fucking smack in the face, and then throw that on top of that big ass number, and that number gets bigger because you just got stronger because you got a bigger size category as well. So again, this 36 is already going to be pushed. Let's just say it's 40. So 40 and 18, you're doing 58 fucking damage minimum, or average, I should say, per smack. And in a combat run, if I hit you up to 6 fucking times, which I could do with the casting of a spell, suddenly 6 times, was it, just say 54? That's 324 damage on average in a combat round. Not counting critties, not counting big rolls, not counting the maximum damage, or the 48 hitting high, just the average. That's a lot of fucking damage potential for one character that's already got buffs, that's got debuffs for bad guys, it's got spells to heal themselves, spells that damage the bad guys, spells that can fucking attack with. Again, pets that they can summon. The war priests are going to be badass, is my point to you. That's all I wanted to say in this video. I know the video is long, and I still didn't show you any fucking build, because again, I'm not going to pick 2 fighting styles. That's just silly. Note, I will say this though, as a final note here. Couple things to point out for the Sacred Fist that's also of value is you see these free stuff down here. These are free feats. You notice that several of them, in fact 3 of them, are combat style feats only for fighting. So if you wanted to take Dragon Style, Dragon Ferocity, and Dragon Roar, you can get them free here, here, and here. You have to wait for it, but I'll happily wait for it, because that gives me all these slots back to do cool shit. And I should point out also, multi-attack does not work for you. I thought it did. Doesn't do shit. This one here, so I said there's 3, and you clearly see 4. It's because this one here is not, well, I can show it to you easier. No, I can't, because they're not Sacred Fist, duh. This one here is not tied to a fighting style. You could pick a fighting style in here. Like I could grab Crane Style right here if I so choose. It is a combat feat proper, much like a fighter. Fighters get those free feats at level 2, 4, 6, blah, blah, blah. That's combat feats only. That means ones that are fighting feats, like weapon focus, weapon specialization, things of that nature fall in this category. So again, you see I grabbed weapon focus unarmed strikes. I did not need to grab it. I wanted it. It's a +1 to my fucking swing, and I'll happily take it. So again, a bonus. The other things to point out about a war priest, the Sacred Fist in particular, is, well, you still get your deity, and you still get your blessings. That's these guys down here. We'll talk about that when we make his build proper. You can't have any monk level dips at all. Where's it at? Oh, here we go. Those we get Flurry of Blows at level 2, not at level 1. Also, we get Key Pool. Key Pool. And that key pool gets better over time, but notice it allows you to do key strikes. So with your unarmed strikes, you literally are getting an unarmed strike. Let's see, this one starts at level 7. So at level 7, our unarmed strikes are considered magic. So again, you may be wondering, well, how the hell am I going to hurt anybody that has DR20/magic? Because my fists aren't magic. Well, they are now. As long as you have at least 1 key point still to spend, which tells you how many you actually have up here. If you have at least 1 to spend, your physical fists are considered magical. At level 10, which is what over here is, your physical attacks, your punches, I should say, are considered cold iron and silver for purposes of overcoming damage reduction. So again, when someone has DR10/silver, like a werewolf or a were-rat, you would be penetrating that. or if they're like a Fae, which there's a lot in this game, your fists are considered cold iron, and therefore will penetrate their cold iron resistances. So they'll have DR10 or whatever the number is / cold iron. A cold iron weapon would penetrate that. Your fist will be considered a cold iron. That's fucking awesome for you. Keep going. Over here, now your fists are considered lawful. So again, for purposes of overcoming that damage reduction. And then the last one is they're adamantine. So again, even better. And again, pretty fucking awesome. Now notice we'll have abilities for being using our key pool. Notice that we can either get in an additional strike. This is stackable with not only your flurry of blows, but also with haste. So I could have, instead of 6 attacks every so often, I could activate a key point as a swift action and get 7 fucking attacks in a combat round. She could do the same thing. But keep reading. There's another way to spend your key points. And in this case, you could burn it and give yourself some extra armor. +1 insight bonus to armor class for 1 fucking minute. Now it's only +1, but notice that increases for every 3 levels above 7 all the way up to a +5. Again, if you want to feel like a tough motherfucker, a +5 insight bonus to here, here, and here, that's a big fucking increase. They are very, very tough, despite being cloth-wearing motherfuckers. These are some of my favorite classes right now, because of the Sacred Fist being so fucking cool. And the War Priests in general, notice I have an Arsenal Chaplain, that's a subclass. I have just the generic War Priest a couple of times. And then I have the Cult Leader, which is a trippy way of doing a War Priest, which they have sneak attack and some other weird fiddly bits besides. They're all have a different feel to them, but very, very fun. So I think you're going to enjoy the next videos that are coming, guys, that talk about the War Priests for our Strongest There Is series. That's what I'm going to call the series. And I think that's an interesting way of thinking about things. How to handle it, the fact that all of them are going to get better weapons. For them, it's their fist. For these guys, it's going to be whatever their sacred weapon is. Some of these guys don't get that, though, as you can see. We're getting kind of screwed over here. So she has Fervor. For the Arsenal Chaplain, she gets a weapon focus. Notice that she's going to get sacred weapon training. That's going to be helpful. And she gets all these massive bonus combat feats. That's the thing that I was telling you about, like a fighter gets. She's going to get War Blessing, whether she had a War Blessing pick in mind. She's going to have it because she's an Arsenal Chaplain. They get it by default. For these other guys, though, you can see like generic War Priest. They get all kinds of cool shit. Not only do they get their weapon focused in something you pick at level 1, that becomes their sacred weapon, and they have fun with that. And then notice how they can upgrade their weapon, like burn specific points to like upgrade the weapon, making it a +5 weapon even if it wasn't one before. They can make it a flaming weapon, they can make it a shock weapon, they get all kinds of upgrades. Again, that's why these guys feel like the divine magus, in my opinion, because of this. They get even more than that, though. They can even use those points to buff their fucking armor, and they can buff that a variety of ways, not only making it a +1 all the way up to a +5 piece of armor, or shield for that matter, I think. Definitely for armor, though, but they can also make it where it gives them resistance to specific elemental attacks or physical damage. So again, similar to, but not the same as Stone Skin, where it absorbs physical damage. They can give themselves spell resistance that steadily increases, depending on the level of the character when they pick it, or how many points they invest in it. Again, pretty goddamn cool way of looking at things. That's just a generic War Priest that can do that shit. And a generic War Priest gets 2 blessings based on their deity. Again, we'll talk about that when we talk about each individual build, because there are some that are good, some that are great, some that are crap. But again, the War Priests are fun, and I'm next video is definitely coming, probably in a day or two, once I fucking tie down his build official, and he'll be a Sacred Fist, and he'll probably be, if I know me, I'm already got it in my head, he's going to be a Dragon Ferocity one. The last thing to show you, I suppose I can show you one more thing. He has, let me show it to you, where's that Dragon Roar? Here's your Stunning Fist. Notice we didn't get a lot of those things, right? But there's a Dragon Roar ability, 3 of them. Okay, so let's actually summon something to fight. Let's do a troll. So we want to spawn unit. I'm going to say type troll CR 15 would be good enough. We're going to do the veteran, not the berserker. Hostile. Okay.
This will
Alright, just to give you a for instance on what that Dragon Roar is capable of doing. Okay, I want you to see this. He's going to come up on us and probably try to smack us around a little bit. But if he doesn't, we have our Dragon Roar ability. Notice that it's not teammate friendly, so fucking be careful with that shit. But you can fucking cast it like so. And notice the damage was 2d10 plus 36. Where did that number come from? right there. So all the bonus is what I'm telling you. And the reason I mentioned this to you is all the bonus is implied. It is getting it to you. So again, we did a solid amount of damage, and that was AoE damage. And again, that is not a spell. Remember, Dragon Roar will save for partial effect, and that partial effect just has to do with whether they're shaken or not. It has nothing to do with the amount of damage they're taking, and there is no spell resistance because this is not a spell. I don't know why the spell descriptor is acid, because that's bullshit. But again, point still the same. It's taking whatever your unarmed strike damage would have been and adding it in cone form. We only get to do that a few times a day, as you can see. There might be other feats that allow us to, haven't looked into, get us more additional uses of, say, Stunning Fist, which would be of value then. And I still maintain that this would be something that I would pick on the next build, so you can expect me to use Dragon Roar. You may disagree, and feel free to take those off and say, I don't want that shit. It's the last one on the list, so it's not necessary by any stretch of the imagination. But I do like it for the fact that I could have been 50 points of damage to multiple bad guys, especially if I'm running solo with this build, which I probably could do for at least a while. And I was trapped in a fucking corner, they're all mugging me. My phone agrees. I could hit like 3 fuckers with that at least, and do up to, let's say, 50 damage right there, bam, 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 of bludgeoning damage in a goddamn cone where there's no spell resistance, and while there could have been physical resistance, like damage reduction to it, it's not likely to exceed the 50 that I just did there. So again, I'm doing damage, and there's no worry about, I'm immune to magic, I don't care, it's a physical attack, has nothing to do with your magic immunity. So again, pretty cool, and again, it sets up the shaken, as you can see, and again, we've mentioned it here, the will save, shaken for 1 to 4 rounds, so there's no guarantee that's going to last for a long period of time. But that's still something I could capitalize on, hopefully, in the next round or two, with something like a Shattered Defenses build, which is, you better believe, something I'm going to push on this guy. So again, that's all I have for you. There's plenty of fun stuff. I suppose one last thing to show you. Again, this is the Fervor, the Quicken personal spell. Notice that when I activate it, all the shit that lights up is the shit you can use. Notice I could have done Divine Favor, like instantaneous buff to my attack bonus and my damage. I could have done Aid, attack bonus morale buff at some temp HP. I could have done Deadly Juggernaut. I could have done the extra attack with Savage Maw. Remember, that's a swift action. Instead of course, I've already attacked with my Dragon Roar, but if I didn't, I could buff up, like give myself some Shield of Faith or something else, like my Savage Maw, and attack in the same fucking combat round. And I can do that multiple times, as you can see, a fucking day. Only once per round, because it's using your free action once. You're once and done. But if I wanted to get some armor up on him, because let's say I forgot to buff up, clearly I have. But let's say I'm missing, what am I missing? Hell, I'm missing my Divine Favor. Remember, it only lasts for 1 minute anyway. Or I could do the one I talked about earlier. I guess we'll just use this one. See the Stunning Barrier? That's this guy here. Remember I said it's crap armor, and it doesn't last very long. But it's one of those where 2 minute buff is probably okay by the end of the build. Now, at earlier levels, and once you have access to this, of course, which doesn't show up until like level 2 or 4 or some shit like that, I can literally activate a Stunning Barrier spell like this. Whoop. And now if he fucking gets pissed at me, let's see if he turns his attention to me. Yep. And he missed all 3 times, you pussy. I was hoping beyond hope that he would actually hit me, and that would discharge the spell, so I can show you the will save. That's fine. But the point was, that's the reason that those fervors are important. All those spells that I kept saying, oh, nice to have that if it was a swift action, but now it's shit. Well, now I have it as a swift action. Another reason for me liking War Priest. But that's all I have for you today. I know this video is plenty long enough. Please like, subscribe, comment down below. Hopefully you guys stayed to the end. Again, I apologize for not being a build proper. But you can see where I'm already headed to the one. I had to almost kind of prove to myself that was the way to go. I was like 90% certain that either Dragon Style, Dragon Ferocity, Dragon Roar was the way to go. If not that, I was probably going to go for the Pummeling Style. And it's simply for the reason that, like I said, for her, for the fun of charging across the battlefield, tripping motherfuckers left and right, getting the vicious stomp on their head. All that shit could have played with it, especially on a team where people have vicious stomp, could play really into the, you know, I'm setting them up, you guys knocking them down kind of shit, you know. It's definitely a solid choice. But I was 90% certain that it was going to be Dragon Ferocity, and I'm pretty much convinced myself with a solid strength-based build, he will put numbers on the board. You will like him. Will he be as physically strong as the other builds? No. Will he be putting up numbers on the board that equal or surpass the other guys? Fuck yeah. And he can heal himself, something that some of the other dudes couldn't do. So again, I maintain that the War Priest, and specifically in this case the Sacred Fist, is going to be someone that you enjoy playing. With that, my name's Brother Mean. Please like, subscribe, comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. Did I make a mistake on anything? Did I say something wrong? Did you find a better use for the Unarmed style than I have? Feel free to post that down below, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye now.